I'm here with Jason Rubin, VP of Metaverse Creative from Meta, and I am Sonya Haskins. I'm head of programming here at AWE. So thank you very much for coming to join our session today. Thank you for being here with us.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Now, actually, I forgot to ask you this, but is this the first time you've spoken at AWE?
Yeah, this would be the first time I've spoken at AWE, so.
Awesome.
For you.
Thank you very much. And we were going to I wanted to give them a little introduction on the context for this and how we even remotely know each other. So, and then we're going to jump into a bit of history. So just so all of you know, we're going to go through a little bit of how did this get started, and then talk about Jason's history with Naughty Dog and some encouragement to you guys as developers, creators, builders, and then answer some questions about the Metaverse Horizon world, and just have some fun up here today. So basically, do you remember the first time we met?
Yes, I think I remember the first time we met. It was an event for Echo Arena, correct?
Oculus Connect 4.
Okay, Connect 4, yes. But it was an event. It was at the night when there was an event, and it was on stage, people playing. Right. Yes, exactly. Playing Echo Arena, and you were, I don't think, on stage. Were you on stage playing, or were you there just for the support of it?
Oh my gosh! Now you're going to embarrass me. I was not on stage playing that day because I got eliminated the day before.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that part, but
no, by Leming from
yes.
Gorilla Tag. Yeah,
yes.
His team eliminated my team, and so we've all got we're all like a family, you guys. You know this, right? And so you got to go back and have the history there.
It was a very, very small community at that time. And it was amazing because when you met somebody, you remembered them, and the community was small enough, you knew everybody.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, I played a game called Echo VR, got involved with the industry, just playing games, having fun. At that time, I couldn't really walk well, was in a wheelchair, so I played seated. Lots of things there going on, but I ended up talking a lot with Meta and people from Meta, and they were very friendly and nice, and I was grateful to just be able to play something that put me in a different world where I wasn't in pain, remember that? And I could just be like, wow, I can enjoy this and just be here. So I want to jump into, that's how we know each other and why he accepted this invitation. So for you, you started into gaming. You were very, very young, and you did some amazing things when you were a teenager, 15 or so. So I would like for now to turn this over to you and let you tell them how you got started with Naughty Dog and what you did, and share some of what you shared with me earlier about how you had to, for example, distribute your games. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, the full story is I saw Star Wars in '77 in theaters to age myself. I was 7 years old. I came out and I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be like George Lucas. And I was growing up in Gainesville, Florida. My parents thought it was hilarious that I would ask for, at that point, a movie camera or video camera would have been, huge with a VCR attached to your side and the like. No. A couple years later, I was introduced to computers. I was about 12 at that point, and asked for one. And this struck my parents as interesting because I could do my homework on it. And I kept asking and asking and asking. I got a computer when I was 13. It was an Apple II. And 2 years later, I published a video game with my business partner, Andy Gavin, nationally. We went from putting it in Ziploc bags, getting a color copy, putting the disc in the Ziploc, and putting it in our local stores, and maybe selling one a month, to, yeah, we'll sell this. And we sold thousands at 15 years old, which made me probably the richest kid in my high school. And then from that, we cold called Electronic Arts. They picked up our game. We sold games with Electronic Arts, 2 games, Rings of Power and, Keep the Thief, and then Rings of Power. And then we got this idea that we would make a game for PlayStation, and that ended up being Crash Bandicoot. Crash was, at the time, the #1 game on the planet by sales, and Crash 2, Crash 3, Crash Team Racing, and then we self-funded Jack and Daxter, sold the company to Sony. I guess the rest is history. Hired
How
Neil,
old were you when you
hired
did that?
Evan, what's that?
How old were you when Crash Bandicoot came out? Do you remember?
26 when it came out. So it was September of 2006. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so you were 26, you were successful at that point from a game developer's perspective, which I guess would have been still considered a new genre in that time, probably?
PlayStation was kind of the inflection point when it went from video games are for kids, and they weren't serious. Like, my father didn't want me to make video games. They thought it was a joke. My business partner, Andy Gavin's father, thought it was, a cute hobby. My kids are interested in something, I think is what they were saying. And we said, we're going to do this as a career. And they were lawyers. That was like, oh my God, what did we do wrong in parenting? Because there was no way you could make a living at it or whatever. No one really understood. I think by the time PlayStation hit, and we had sold a few games, and we never asked for money from our parents. So by that point, they at least were happy we didn't move back in the house. By the time PlayStation hit, it was a business, and people understood what was going on. But it really went from Ziploc bags, in the mid-'80s to PlayStation in a straight upward trajectory, and all of a sudden took the world by surprise. And frankly, I think that's what's happening right now in our space. Like, when we met, it was very much a small audience, not a lot of people. We hadn't sold a lot of units at that point. We really hadn't. Certainly not the tens of millions we have now.
We all literally knew each other.
Yeah, exactly. And you're looking right now at that turning into the 90s, and then it goes crazy. And, we were talking earlier about the fact that I was living in an apartment with Andy and eating ramen and didn't have a light bulb in my room because it was a halogen and they were too expensive. And we were putting every dollar we had into video games, and that paid off, right? And that's the dream I think a lot of people at this conference have, and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah,
I love that. And I wanted to go back to something you said a minute ago. There's all the work, and your parents maybe had an idea of something they might expect of you and stuff. And so maybe you weren't sure either, but you pursued your passion. And so we've chatted about that. And I've talked about that a lot just generally in life, but life is precious and short. You never know what's going to be over. So, don't you think it's always best for people to do that versus taking the easy route?
I think it's a choice. I wouldn't call it the easy route. If you're comfortable, you make a choice in life whether or not you take something safe or you roll the dice. I rolled the dice. There's nothing wrong or ignoble with taking a safe choice. I really don't think that's a bad thing to do in life. And if you can find a safe choice that you love, even better. I was not that kid. I didn't want to be a lawyer. There was no chance that I was going to be a lawyer. I didn't want to sit behind a desk. The irony, of course, is that that's exactly what I do with video game making. But I didn't want that job. And for me, there was only doing what I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I didn't mean easy route as like an insult so much. It's just something alternate to what gives you the most joy in life. So that's great. But I think it's awesome that you were able to find something you love, find a way to monetize it, and then go along from there. So when did you start hearing about or learning and become interested in something called immersive reality or virtual reality? What are your first recollections?
So virtual reality as a concept was there even in the 80s and 90s when I was making video games. I think the first time I used virtual reality, I put on a headset in Vegas at some place, and it was playing, I think it was Quake that it was playing at the time. And it was really weird because you could use the controller to go left or turn left. And if you turn left, you're used to having the controller and just going back to straight, but that doesn't actually, that kind of turns you while you're still facing left, and the whole thing was very odd. And it also needed to be suspended because it was CRTs in front of forget it. And it was many, many years later, I had a short run as president of THQ. I was trying to take it through bankruptcy with an investment bank, and when that stopped, I had my first child. I was kind of lucky enough to take some time at home, and I got called by Brendan Uribe, and he knew me through friends, and he said, you really should come down to Irvine and take a look at this Oculus thing. And I was like, what is it, VR? Come on, I've seen that. I played Quake. And they're like, yeah, Carmack is maybe going to come work for us. He hadn't at the time. And I'm like, great, I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. And he's like, well, just come down. And Irvine isn't that far. So I drove down, and the minute I put it on, I'm like, there's no question that my then maybe 6-8-month-old, this will be a big part of her life. Like, there is no question in her time span that this is the future. And basically ended up joining what at that time was Oculus, that was then acquired by Meta, and the rest is now almost 11 and a half years of history.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so you put it on, you experienced Quake, and then you came.
That was the one I didn't like. I didn't do Quake with Brendan. Brendan had Valve had put together some things, and right.
Okay, so what I was going to ask was, what do you do now that you really enjoy in the headset? We talked about this earlier, but I wanted to move into the things that you actually enjoy most in VR.
Yeah, I mean, that's changed over time. So one thing about me, like I said, I want to do what I love, is that whatever I'm doing, I am not only passionate about, I'm obsessed with it. And, just this is a personal thing. Like, I've had to make myself be a family person because I just want to do the thing I want to do all the time. And it's been great, but right now that's Horizon. And Horizon has a long way to go, to be clear. But the reason I first joined Meta was because I believed that eventually, and this is again to what my daughter would be doing, we will be spending a significant amount of time online, synchronous social interactions embodied. Like, those things seem to me to be inevitable. And keep in mind, Roblox at this time was minuscule. Fortnite didn't exist when we were talking about this. Certainly there were games like World of Warcraft where there were a lot of people doing this, but it wasn't generalized in the sense that you're an orc, you're an elf, whatever you are, you're in you can't go into a shooter in World of Warcraft. It's one thing. But I saw this world that, it wasn't, I don't think Ready Player One had even been written at that time. Like, it was clear that it was going to this thing. And that's what really excited me. And so for the first 8 years of working in Oculus, I was trying to build a publishing arm and ran the content team because people needed stuff to do while we were building Horizon. Now I feel like the company is finally putting the attention in Horizon that it really needs to do to make it succeed. And so that's what I spend most of my time doing. I spend my time in Horizon talking to people about what they'd like to see in their experience.
So I'm guessing, based on that, you do more with games now than you were a few years ago because you're in Horizon now, or is that not?
Well, no, the content team, the content organization did all of the content. So it's the part of the company that owns all the studios that Batman Arkham came out of. That was a deal that I helped sign, that we bought a bunch of the studios, and any partnership you had to make content would have been my organization. So I think it's fair to say at that time I spent more time on games, although Supernatural and part of my organization also worked on any kind of work products or anything you were doing in productivity or anything. I mean, we basically, if it was content and it's in the App Store, we were working on it. I play games in Horizon, but I don't view Horizon in the long run as a game thing. I view games as what you do when you're being social, or you might want to sit around a fire and tell ghost stories, or you might be in a work environment, or you might be in a fitness environment, or you could just be hanging out with people randomly. VR Chat has some clubs that are very popular. There are infinite things you can do. Games are just something people tend to do with each other because it creates structure, and structure tends to make people happier and work better together than if you give people lack of structure, in which case sometimes they make their own entertainment, and unfortunately sometimes with human beings that isn't the friendliest form of entertainment.
Yeah, I do mostly now, because I still love playing games in VR. I mean, that's my preferred social activity: exercise, gaming, fellowship, everything. I mean, that if I'm not working, pretty much if I'm not working, I'm probably either out in my yard taking care of my yard, my chickens, or playing VR. And but my preferred is Horizon Super Rumble. So Megan Fitzgerald, she introduced me to that a couple years ago, and I just love it, man. You go in there and shoot people, and
yeah, and like I said, for a gamer, there is certainly going to be games until the end of time, but there's other things to do, and I think what Horizon needs to be is infinite numbers of things to do with people.
Right.
And one of the things that we're trying to work on really hard right now is AI creation of assets, so that creators can create more things more quickly. Because we really want them to, again, create a world of things to do. We should have conferences like this. eventually in Horizon. Obviously, being in real life, this is better than virtual. But if you can't be in real life, I would say if someone's watching this on YouTube later, wouldn't you rather have been there virtually if you couldn't travel? Wouldn't you rather be able to jump into it spatially and experience it that way? Isn't that better than everything but real life? And so we're building AI tools to help creators create spaces, things to do as quickly as we can, so we can create all of those opportunities for people to get together and do things together. The one thing AI has not yet proven itself to be really good at is figuring out what to build. But the actual asset building, it's shockingly good at. You want a texture, it's got it. You want a model, getting better, getting there. You want a whole area put together that's, for example, a surfboard on a beach. We did a blog post recently showing some of this. It's really good at that. What do you do there? It hasn't quite gotten there yet. So creators, I think, are going to have these tools that they take all of these ready-made assets and give you something to do together. And then hopefully people will come, it'll be social, happy, fun.
Yeah, I think that sometimes some of the things you're saying, we're saying the same thing, but maybe a slightly different way, because like when I'm in Horizon and the other things I do, like say go to a court, the court.
Virtual court, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Go to virtual court or go to a bar or places like that. I personally, I still say I'm gaming because I'm having fun. So it's my social time. It's fun. So I think there's a little bit of a...
Yeah, that totally works. The thing that, a little bit of history. When Meta first put together a team to build social applications, they took a very high-minded goal to not give any context to what was happening. In other words, people would get together. You could give them a deck of cards, but you couldn't program poker. You could give them access to videos, but you couldn't create a movie theater. You wanted it to be completely open. And what people tended to do was stare at each other and not know what to do. Because you have cards, but it takes a while for you to get people to agree to do the thing, and that just wasn't working.
Right.
The bar, the courthouse, these are excuses to go into a mode in your mind that you understand and role play. And whether you're role-playing as somebody in Super Rumble who's shooting better than everybody else, and you're therefore a mercenary or whatever, or you're role-playing as a judge or the jury, or you're role-playing as somebody who's siding up to somebody at a bar to have a conversation with them, the context gives the social lubricant that's required for people to be able to interact. Once that starts happening, social worlds take off and they do really well. So you have to give people that, what are we doing? One of the more popular worlds right now is a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And like, there's a fry cook area and a burger flipping area, or you could be the customer. And like that context is the magic that literally if you go there, you'll see people working the fry cooker for free, keep in mind. You don't get paid a lot at McDonald's, you get paid nothing in Horizon right now, and yet they're doing it.
Yeah, it's really funny. I'm laughing because, yes, I'm one of those people that goes in there and does all this. And it's just fun. I mean, it's like life is hard and there's a lot of stress. And why not just put on this headset and go in these places and just enjoy yourself? Although I will have to say in the courthouse world,
yeah,
it's very annoying because there's like always so many kids in there. And I've never once been able to be judged. Not once. And okay, yes, I sound like a 10-year-old. I realize that at the moment. But it's just annoying. You want to be the judge.
There is a large variety of desires inside the metaverse. And as we get higher concurrency, I think we'll have the ability to segment people better so that they're with more like-minded people. Because again, like you do the fries and people are throwing the fries. There are people that don't want to be in a food fight. You want to segment with the people that are more seriously, like you said. There are probably people who want to go to the courthouse and really play the courthouse. And then there are people who want to be monkeys in a courthouse. And you don't want those people to be together because they both don't have fun with each other, right? So over time, as we get more concurrency, I think we'll get much better at segmenting that out in the same way that a Fortnite, which has concurrency, says, you suck, you're going with the other people who suck, these people would kill you, they're going to be put in the same space.
No, to be clear, though, I like playing with the kids. I don't mind being in there with them. I just sometimes want to win the battle, but I don't think it's a problem at all. I know a lot of people prefer to have the different groups segregated, or maybe like women sometimes want to be with other women, or guys with guys, or whatever. People have different preferences. For me personally, I don't care. I just, well, I do like to win, though. So, you know, when it comes to so that's the issue with the courthouse. It's not an age or anything like that.
But again, giving people the tools to segment or automatically figuring out where you'd be happiest is something we definitely need to work on.
For sure, and that's good too. That goes into a little bit of, we didn't actually discuss this, but with in safety and integrity and stuff. And so I think that over the past 9 years, I will say that there have been so many things added which have been really helpful, and so now that's a progress in the right direction for sure.
We were definitely trying, and you were a big part of that back in the in the Echo Arena days, because you being in the room and greeting people and setting the tone created good behavior.
Thank you.
And we could see that. Like, you could actually see that people who were in worlds with you were having a better time based on metrics. Because there was someone there to greet them and be kind and set the tone that this is a place where we compete, but we're nice to each other and we have fun. And that's important. And we have to figure out ways to get that to happen more often, so we don't need, in each case, a you in there doing that.
Yeah, so the, for people in the audience listening, the context there is if you're playing a social game, which I was, and being one of the very, very few women that was playing, there are basically two things that happens. One is people come in and they're absolutely horrendous to you and harass you, and it was very awful, a really awful, horrible experience. But being the very stubborn person that I am, I'm like, look, I shouldn't have to leave because I'm not a man. I should be able to be here if I want. And so that's where we started kind of discussing options. How do you handle this? And so, yeah, I did just try to be nice because I'm basically a nice person. But I think I've seen, like, another Axiom and some of these other companies try to integrate the concepts of when you're building community, if you guys are building games, then you have to start from the beginning intentionally bringing in people who are going to try to set good examples and try to make sure your tone overall is not a toxic environment. Because if you have a toxic environment, if we had a toxic environment here in this conference and it was okay to treat people badly or talk to them that way, that would be the tone. So you set the tone of kindness and grace and generosity and helpfulness, and then that becomes your tone. So it's not everyone in every case that does that, but the thing is you have your overall, okay? So can you see the confidence monitor with the time? Because I cannot.
The confidence monitor with time. I have
Thank
confidence that we have 7 minutes.
You're confident.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's supposed to be here, but I do not see it, so that's concerning. All right. What else would you like to chat about? Because we've kind of gone around. We've talked about Horizon, which is great. Wanted to talk a little bit about your history, which we did. And what else you want to talk
how about this? We have 7 minutes left. Mm-hmm. Can we take questions?
I think we can take questions.
6 minutes left, so you have to raise your, okay, we have a question back there.
We just used one, but wait just 1 second. Well, they're going to have to set it up first.
Well, no, if he asks the question, I'll repeat it, and then it'll get in. Go ahead. Okay, so the question was, will Horizon allow creators to have video content in their worlds? I have nothing to announce today, but that sounds like a really, really good idea, so I would hope that we do that pretty quickly.
Great question. Nima.
So I know you guys have talked a lot about open metaverse concepts. Have you guys thought about bringing in non-Horizon building blocks into Horizon world? Meaning like the ability to load a WebXR context or pull in the existing Unity app and port it in, or even like another engine like an Unreal app and bring it in within Horizon world. Is that a thing you guys are looking at?
So the question was, Meta has spoken a lot about open metaverse. Have we thought about allowing various other ways for assets to come into Horizon, or opening Horizon in some way to other engines, such as you named a few engines? The answer to that is we do believe in an open metaverse. I think the first stage is for us to get it right in the simple case of a creator building in Horizon worlds and creating something interesting. And we haven't quite gotten there, so we're working really hard on it. And I think the next 2 years, you're going to see a sea change in what you can get in Horizon with Horizon tools and what you could do with Horizon. Because without that, without quality that you can build in Horizon, I think the rest of the question becomes irrelevant. Having said that, we do believe in an open metaverse, and we do some of the things you're suggesting today. For example, there are apps that use our avatars, but use them in Unity. And one of the challenges we've had is once you've opened that up, you have to support it, and then your avatars can move more slowly, and they can't, they can't improve themselves as quickly as they should, because every time you improve, you have to then improve the avatars for the Unity part that allows the avatars to go into these third-party apps, like PokerStars, for example. Again, I want to get to a point at which our stuff is great. And then, yes, we want to open it up in both of the directions you said. One would be allowing our avatars, allowing all of the other aspects of our metaverse to be built in whatever engine you can run as an app. Wonderful. We already do that to an extent, but it would be nice to do that more in the future. And then the other direction would be wonderful as well, but we have to settle on an engine that's ready to ingest, and we haven't quite gotten there yet. Again, I think the next 2 years, you'll see us get into a place where we can start to look at that much more seriously.
J-Man Curly.
Oh.
When working on projects like Crash, what did you do to facilitate getting your higher level visionary ideas to a group of people who are maybe more technically minded? So if you have a high level vision for your game project, you need to tell a group of coders exactly what you want to see. What helped deliver that message and bring the project to life?
The question was, when we were building Crash Bandicoot, how did you get the higher level vision to more technically astute people? So I'll cop out first and then I'll answer the question. Crash was 8 people. You might be surprised to hear that, but Crash Bandicoot was made with 8 people. Crash 2 was 12, Crash 3 probably around 16 to 20, CTR we got over 20, Jak and Daxter we got into the 30s. Like, it's only recently that that's really gotten to the point where you couldn't put everybody in a room. And back then, work from home wasn't a thing. We were working in the same room. Like, we were all in the same room. It wasn't that hard. It really was a team effort in a way that a lot of large things today, a GTA cannot be made in this way because it's thousands of people. Even Naughty Dog has changed their methodologies over the years. I'm going to go back in a couple weeks for the 40th anniversary and talk to some of the Naughty Dogs. And the way they run the business with hundreds of people making a game is very different. What I like to, and now I'll answer in seriousness, I'm still doing this as part of my job as VP of Creative. You have to articulate your vision in a way that people can understand it. And then you have to be deeply ingrained in everything that's happening all the time. The first part is relatively easy. You write a document, you make a pitch, you stand up in front of people, and you have to articulate it in a way that everyone understands exactly what you're talking about it. The hard part is the second part of that equation, which is you have to constantly be on top of everything that's happening and constantly looking at whether it differs from your vision, calling people together and saying, this is good, but this is straying, here's why it's not part of the vision, and continue to move them along to that eventual vision. That is, roughly speaking, how the big companies do it, through stand-ups where some senior person stands up and like goes through the product and talks about what they would see change, what they don't think is working along. But it's getting harder and harder as the companies get bigger. And at a company like Meta, which is truly large and has different divisions, it gets harder and harder still. So we have planning sessions. Planning sessions have documents that are, durable decisions, we call them, that then people can read back to, and you can go point, and you go, that's not a durable decision. You've changed it becomes harder and harder as the companies get larger. Sorry, I'll let you point at them, but go ahead.
No, it's okay, you're good.
Go.
Thanks for everything you've done for the space. I have a question. I've run a co-dev studio in VR for many, many years, and I believe in the vision for Horizon Worlds, but there's 2 blockers that I keep on running into. One, my most qualified programmers want to develop, their own way, direct to code, C#, C++, whatever. And when you look at Horizon Worlds, very often the people that I find eager to work in it are actually still the least qualified in game development. So there's a bit of a dichotomy there. That's the skill side. And then on the second thing that I run into is on an IP level. Recently, Roblox included kind of this license management. I think it was announced only a few days ago. A tool that allows external licenses to be used within Roblox world. Given the fact that they're trying to create a creator economy, is Meta going to do things that allow developers to create some
got you. Two questions, and then we've been told that we're at time. So the first question is, my most talented people don't want to work in Horizon Worlds. The people who do want to work in Horizon Worlds aren't talented. I would say that's a two-sided problem. The first problem is you need to convince the people who don't want to work in Horizon that it's a good place to work. And the second part of that problem is Horizon needs to be made into a place that attracts the best talent, and we are working on that. I agree with you, we are not there, but I think we can make a space that people do want to come to and they do want to program in. The second question you asked was about IP ownership, and you started by saying Roblox made an announcement a couple days ago. I'm not aware of that announcement. I hear what you're saying about the ability for creators to create IP that then you own what you do in Horizon. Like, you're the one that owns that world. You make the decisions in that world. We're not, you know, I don't think that's the problem. You asked about bringing IP in Horizon. Seems reasonable. We don't do that yet. We have to get the foundation there. And once we built the foundation and your best programmers want to come there, I think that's when we'll talk about how we bring in external IP.
Hey, listen, everybody, thanks for coming for this chat today. And thank you, Jason, for joining us on stage.